national series, therefore relax and enjoy saja.
Enjoy and santai
Karena ini tak guna strict protokol ya. Jadi ada lima itinerary saja. Yang pertama, welcoming speech from me as the chairman ASEAN Leisure Community. Anak Prof Fazli ini Bu, beliau member of trustee juga nih dari ALC ini. Kemudian number 2 adalah short video. Nanti Prof Fazli kalau lupa apa satu ALC ini, nanti ada short video around 3 minit. Kemudian the third adalah sharing for the speaker, karena ini Pak Prof Fazli ini dimulai dari dari Pak Fazli lebih awal daripada Ibu Nelly and alfabet. Kalau mulai dari Muhammad pun M juga awal lagi dari Nelly. Jadi nanti Prof Fazli bagi sharing awal ya Bu ya. Kemudian sesuai dengan alfabet lah, kalau kita orang akademik lihat alfabet lah. Okay, after the first speaker sharing, there is one song by video for refreshing first. Memang selalu buat macam itu. And then the second speaker. Kemudian selepas dua speaker sharing, baru kita pergi ke question answer. Dan question answer boleh diguna oleh participant. You can to use the chat box or you can to share direct to my email address. I will to share my email address as soon as possible in the chat box too. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start right now with the pray first. Mari kita mulai dengan berdoa lebih dahulu. Dipersilakan Kak Ustaz. Lagi kita akan jemput Profesor Muhammad Fadli Sabri. Ibu, beliau ini bukan hanya sebagai dosen favorit di UPM dan sebagai dekan. Beliau sangat populer di Malaysia karena seringkali mengisi acara di televisi, di radio tentang smart financial. Time is your now, Prof. Sila.
Alhamdulillah. Alright. Let me share my slide first.
Very clear, very clear.
Very clear,
Okay.
Alright. Insyaallah, a'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Allahumma yassir wa la tu'assir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you very much to Prof Pak Reza, our chairman and CEO of ILC. I think this is a very good initiative where we can have more friends from the regional. Thank you very much. Right. And then so my Ibu Nelly as a speaker, and then my fellow friend. Basically, this is more like what we call it in Malaysia, santai ini, like enjoy sharing, right?
Yes.
So inshallah, all right. The title of my presentation is financial literacy and overview. I'll discuss about some benefit why we need to have a financial literacy, especially in nowadays situation, and maybe some strategies or maybe tip how we can achieve or to become a smart financial life. All right. So this is what happened now, Pak Reza and my fellow friend. So hopefully, I will talk both language lah. Insyaallah, English as well as in Malay lah. Hopefully others also can easily understand Malay. Should be no problem, right? So let me begin my presentation by sharing among the recent mega trend. Okay, number one, as we know that nowadays there is a crisis fight between Russia and Ukraine, right? So what is happening? So because of this crisis, it will give huge impact towards the local as well as the world economy. So what's so special about Russia? As we know that Russia is the world's third oil producer, the second natural gas producer, and among the top 5 producer of steel, nickel, and aluminium. And Ukraine itself, we know as a key producer, especially corn, ataupun jagung. Pak Reza dia panggil jagung. The 6th largest in the world. And then wheat, gandum, 7 in the world. And then sunflowers, number 1 in the world. So sunflowers meaning that what? Here in Malaysia we call it minyak
bunga matahari.
Bunga matahari. Right. So number 1. The second mega trend is that the climate change. I'm not so sure for Indonesia, but as for Malaysia, we hope that by 2050, Malaysia are free from carbon, okay, because of the climate change, right? So because our consumer habit are actually driving climate change, according to one study by Ipsos conducted in 2019, it shown that around 60% of consumer pengguna worldwide have changed in terms of the product and services they use due to the concern about the climate change. Okay, so the third one, the mega trend, is the digital transformation. So nowadays people always talk about IR 4.0, Society 4.0. Digital transformation itself have far-reaching impact on consumer as well as the business and marketing. This is we cannot what we call it. This is something that really happen nowadays. The digitalization effects in terms of the ways that we communicating, gathering and exchange information. And then the fourth one in terms of the demographic changes, all right? So just to share with you, as for Malaysia, by 2030, Malaysia will become an aged nation. We will be negara tua where we have about 15% of Malaysian population consists of those aged between 60 and above. And last but not least, lifestyle, consumer behavior. So lifestyle is important aspect when looking at consumer choices. So just give you an example. For example, just because of the maybe two women, for example, with similar age and income, does not mean they are likely to purchase the same product. So these 5 mega trend really give an huge impacts toward our consumer behavior. That's the most reason why we as a consumer, why we as a household, we need to be like financially literate. We need to be financially literate or have a financial literacy, right? So the next slide. Okay, so what are Malaysian consumer top 10 concern? This is study done by AC Nielsen in 2017. So meaning that now we are in 2022, so 5 years ago. So but the same thing also concern, even though this is like 5 years ago, but this is also the same concern right now. So what are the Malaysian consumer top 10 concern? Number one in terms of economy, right? I think because of pandemic, this is really something that give impact toward us. For example, if I can share with you, I have some data here in terms of GDP. Gross domestic product from Malaysia is like 3.5. And then in terms of when we talk about job security, we cannot run far away in terms of unemployment. So currently in Malaysia, in terms of unemployment rate is about 3.8%, and the current inflation for Malaysia is about 4.4%. So in terms of the third one that become main concern among Malaysian is in terms of debt. So in terms of household debt to GDP ratio, we are at 73.1%. Okay. So yeah, so Pak Reza, this is like a study done by OECD in 2022. In 2020. So for the purpose of this presentation, I just selected a few countries. For example, we have here Thailand, we have Malaysia, and then we have Indonesia. And then we can see that, all right, in terms of financial score, in terms of financial knowledge, financial behavior, and financial attitude, Indonesia are doing well or has outperformed Malaysia. Right? So that's why I give like C+, C, B, and C+. This is like just the grading, because at the university we have like grading, right? A berapa, B berapa, C berapa, to give some idea. So where are we now in terms of financial literacy? And when we talk financial literacy, for sure that in terms of knowledge, in terms of behavior, and then in terms of attitude, right? So the next slide, in terms of what doing better in terms of watch their finances, careful in terms of their expenditure, we can see that here. So Malaysia are slightly higher than Indonesia in terms of score. But when it comes to saving for 6 months, this is what we call it saving for emergency. If something happened, for example, during the pandemic, majority people are unemployed, business are not doing well. So whether we have like a 6 month saving or not. So for both Malaysia and Indonesia, we are not doing well in terms of this saving for 6 months. I'm not so sure why. Is it correct? Betul ke Pak Riza?
Yes, betul.
Alright, next. This is very interesting. And then I should ask Pak Riza, maybe I should ask Ibu Nelly, and maybe I should ask our Indonesian friend. So when we talk about financial stress, it seems that Malaysia are more likely or highly financially stressed as compared to Indonesia. I'm not so sure why. Why, Pak Riza? Do you have any idea?
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
I think
Macamnya,
this is
yes. Yeah.
I think this is something interesting. Most probably after this we can have discussion. Hopefully that Malaysian friend, we should learn from an Indonesian friend, especially how to cope with this financial trend. So then from the slide we can also see that higher percentage of Indonesia are active saver, and then also they have long-term financial goals. This is very good and very interesting. Okay, so this is summarized from OECD study. We can see that Indonesia itself score higher than Malaysia. So 13.3 as compared to 12.5. All right. So the next slide is about financial literacy. I think this is very interesting. I'm not so sure whether you are well known with this fella. So his name is Alan Greenspan. So Alan Greenspan is the 13th chair of the United States Federal Reserve. So in Malaysia, we call it Federal Reserve, like Central Bank of Malaysia or Governor of Bank Malaysia. Maybe Governor of Bank Indonesia, for example. This is really interesting. So I really love this quote because according to him, the number one problem in today's generation and economy is the lack of financial literacy. It's not about pandemic, Pak Reza, COVID-19. It's about the lack of financial literacy, lack of knowledge, poor in terms of managing their finances, have like a negative attitude to money, for example. That's the reason why, according to Alan Greenspan, the problem is because lack of financial literacy. Then let's have a look. What do people outside there define in terms of financial literacy? What do experts define in terms of financial literacy? Right, ladies and gentlemen, we can see here that according to the President Advisory Council on Financial Literacy, they define financial literacy as the ability, keupayaan to use knowledge and skills, kemahiran to manage financial resources effectively. The keyword is effectively, for a lifetime of financial well-being, because the ultimate goal is that we want to achieve financial well-being. We call it in Malaysia adalah kesejahteraan kewangan. And then according to Canadian Foundation, so financial literacy, having the knowledge, guys, we have a knowledge, we have the skill, and the most important that is that by having this knowledge, by having this skill, it makes us more confident in terms of managing our finances in everyday life. Okay, so another definition by National Financial Education Council, financial literacy meaning that possessing the skill and knowledge on financial matters to best fulfill at individual, personal, family, and global community goals. And last but not least, according to the Center of Financial Inclusion, define financial literacy as the combination of knowledge, skill, attitude, and ultimately behavior to translate into sound financial decision and accurate use of financial services. So if we try to summarize, so among the keywords that normally people use is in terms of knowledge, skill, confidence, right? So in a nutshell, I can simplify in terms of the definition. Financial literacy basically is the knowledge, ability, skill to understand finance for lifelong financial well-being. So basically, by having this knowledge and confidence to efficiently, to effective in terms of manage, save, and invest for our own, for the family, and then for the nation, inshallah. Right. So the next question is why financial literacy is important. If we can relate to the previous slide, for example, that I have shared with you the 6 mega trend. That's the most important reason why we need to have financial literacy, or why financial literacy is so important. Number one, in terms of enhance of our financial understanding. I do believe with the advancement of technology, nowadays people also talk about financial technology, financial plus technology. There are so many financial products. For example, when we talk about investment, we have so many type of investment. When we talk about, for example, like insurance or takaful, we have so many types. So by having this financial literacy, it will help us in terms of financial understanding. And the second one helps us in terms make sound financial decision. So we have so many products in the marketplace. For example, if you want to buy a smartphone, for example, we have like Samsung, we have an Apple, for example. Which one is your preference? Which one is your choose? Which one is the best? So by having this knowledge, then it can help us in terms of make a sound or very good financial decision. So to give us understanding and education to use money properly, teach us how to use budgeting, for example, saving and investing. And then lately in Malaysia, we are really bombarded with so many financial scam. By having this financial literacy, it will help us in terms of try to avoid become victimized by this financial scam. So tell us that we should decide on our future financial goals. So, okay, what is our financial goal? So we should also think about in terms of pursue our education at the tertiary level, doing S1, S2, S3. So in terms of children education, for Muslim, for example, most probably they need to have money to perform their Hajj, Umrah, for example, to buy a house, home, for example. All right. Last but not least, teaches us that we should always keep some emergency fund with us, which can take care of our expenses for at least 6 months. So this is what we call it saving for the emergencies. All right. This is like what we call it kitaran kewangan, or in English we call it financial needs will evolve over different life stages, right? So as you can see that at each of these life stages, we have so many financial commitment. For example, the most crucial are those who are aged between 18 to 14. Because we just graduated from the university, we just entered the job market, and then we are married, having a family. We need to think about in terms of buying a house, for example, buying a car. We need to think about having like a protection insurance, medical insurance, so many concerns. So that's why we need to be financially literate, and we need to really manage our finances. Okay. So this is the case for Singapore itself. We can see from the slide. Okay, so very drastic in terms of numbers. So for 2019, the cases for e-commerce scam, for the e-commerce scam, they have like a 2,816, and by 2020 up to 19.1%, it goes up to 3,354. For social media impersonation scam, so from 786, okay, skyrocket to 3010, and then banking related phishing scam. This is all the scam, the top 4 scam. So from 80 to 1342. Right. So that's the most reason why we should educate ourselves, our family members, our children to be financially literate. So at least can avoid from this kind of scam. Okay, another reason because of what? Because of fintech, financial technology. Now, world is changing drastically. Even though when we talk about investment, we are no longer depend on what we call it a traditional remiser agent, for example. Now we have like a robot. We call it robo advisor. Okay, so this is what we call a robo advisor. Pak Reza, now we have a robot itself. They're the one who help us in terms of determine where we should invest our money. Very, very interesting. Because robo advisor are much less expensive than working with a traditional financial advisor, because there are online tools that assist investor in picking an optimal investment portfolio according to their risk tolerance and profile. So do I have time, Pak Reza?
7 minutes more.
7 minutes more. Okay, 7 minutes. Okay, 7 minutes. Sorry, okay, social commerce. Sorry. Okay. So this is more like I just share with you some like the top. I believe this Tokopedia is a local. Pak Reza, Tokopedia is a local, right?
Local.
Okay, Tokopedia. Okay, so this is about Malaysia. Okay, so okay, basically since we have like 7 more minutes, basically when we talk about financial literacy, we have 5 core competencies of financial literacy. Number 1, in terms of earning. So earning is something that relate to how we can think about where we should or how we can generate in terms of income. So we have saving, investing, we have spending, borrowing, and protecting in terms of our asset family members. Okay, I really love this analogy, right? So to be a smart financial life, we must manage our money like it's like a pro. So when it comes to money management, you can't afford just to defend. Tak boleh kalau defend main bola ni tak boleh saja bertahan. Kalau tidak macam mau menang. If you want a sporting chance at building wealth, membina kekayaan, you have to go to attack. Maintenance also must plan, get help, and educate yourself to smash your financial goal. So you can see here attack, how we can increase. We should think about how we can increase in terms of our income, how we can build our net worth. But in the same time, we also have to maintain. So we must keep track of our expenses. Well, once we receive money, we should think where it goes back. Improve your financial literacy. I think this is also one platform where we can increase in terms of financially defend, spending less, saving and protecting, and become a pension saving. So please manage our money like a pro. Why it's stuck, Fariza? Let me hold
No
on.
problem.
Let me double. Sorry, let me go to. Okay. 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 So tip for living a smart financial life. I think number 1, the most important thing, we must make sure that always live below your means. What does it mean? So if you receive your income or your salary, for example, like ringgit Malaysia, for example, ringgit Malaysia is like 3,000. You must live below 3,000, for example, like 2,500, and then you have extra 500 ringgit Malaysia. All right. So know your net worth. We must always know in terms of our assets and liability. Pay down bills as frequently as possible. Pay off debt. Don't try to make a new loan or debt, for example. So allocate time to your finances. Make sure that we have some time to really study in terms of our financial situation. And the most important thing is that also track your spending, where it goes. Right, review your recurring monthly payments and protect your most valuable asset. Save and invest now, and lastly is prepare for the future. Okay, this is by Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is a investment guru, cikgu, right? So according to him, the best investment you can make is in yourself. I think by attending this program, international lecture series, this is also part of our investment. Okay, so how about in terms of financial literacy? Even though you were not taught in any school, you have a moral obligation to yourself and your loved one to learn the basic of financial literacy. So financial literacy should become our lifelong learning. Okay, so please remember, financial education should become our lifelong learning. Whether you are an employee or employer, educator, student, parent, or every member of the community, we must play a vital role in expanding financial literacy. And last but not least, I love this quote by Mr. President, ex-president of United States, Mr. Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. With that, I end my presentation, Pak Riza, Ibu, and my fellow friends. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Masya Allah, amazing. Barack Obama, anak Jakarta.
Ya, Jakarta ya?
Ya, dia sekolah rendah dekat Jakarta. Jadi
bapaknya Indonesia ya?
Ya, while he coming here, he talk makan nasi goreng, makan bakso, enak kata.
Oh,
Dia
really?
kata macam,
Ah.
iya ya, dia memang dia public speaking-nya luar biasa. Dia presentation bahkan ini
Okay,
beberapa
thank you, Prof. Reza. I'm not a famous speaker like Muhammad Fadli. Okay.
no, Ibu boleh gunakan Indonesia, boleh Melayu juga boleh, Inggris juga boleh.
Wait minutes, sir.
Oke. Ini ada Pak Azhar juga. Selamat datang, sudah Pak Azhar gabung. Thank you for coming, join.
Assalamualaikum, selamat siang.
Ya, silakan Pak. Oke, kita lihat Ibu Nelly sharing right now. Very clear Bu, sangat jelas 50 apa ini?
54 tahun.
Oh, right, STIE.
54. This is still 50.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I just want to share about the material. The topic is variable costing in SMS, info or namely UMKM in Indonesia, UMKM. Unit mikro, kecil, menengah. Okay. First, I want to introduce my about the introduction. Based on the result of the economic census SA 2016, it is stated that the number of micro and small enterprises, namely UMKM, in Indonesia is 26.20 million business unit or has a contribution of 96.33%. So that an SME must be able to face competition in order to achieve economic growth that is able to support by business and its life. This is mean that the UMKM in Indonesia support economic growth in Indonesia. SMEs are expected to run in a sustainable manner and can even increase gradually because SMEs are considered to have great potential in deriving community economic activities. I mean that the SMEs in Indonesia can be develop economic growth in Indonesia because it's a lot of UMKM in Indonesia. And next, SMEs in Indonesia generally include various businesses. One of which is a business engaged in manufacturing, namely a business that processes from basic material to finished good. Now, I think that the UMKM in Indonesia is start from raw material into finished good, like manufacturing manufacturing company. This production activities certainly require the sacrifice of economic resources in the form of various types of costs in an effort to earn income. This cost will be the basis for determining the cost of production. The elements that make up the cost of production can be grouped into three, namely the cost of raw material. I think that the UMKM, because of like manufacturing company, is start from or consists about the three material, raw material, and three element. I mean, one raw material, direct labor cost, and factory overhead costs. These three costs must be carefully recorded and classified according to the type of nature of the cost. This aims to make it easier for companies to find out how much the company actually costs to produce a product. Okay, and next, most companies generally aim to get the maximum profit at the expense on minimal cost. To get optimal profit, especially for manufacturing businesses, it is necessary to have established policy so as not to lose in the competition. One of these policy is the determination of the right cost of production and selling price. In calculating the cost of goods manufactured, it is necessary to know in advance to understanding and differences between the full costing and a variable costing method, because the selection of the method of calculating the cost of production will affect the determination of the selling price and the profit earned by the company. I mean that the statement I want to introduce about two methods. One method is full costing method, and two method is variable costing method. If in order to, we can compare about two methods, full costing method and variable costing method. Based on Ivana and Yuliani research, 2020 and 46, page 46 suggests that so far SMS do not record and prepare report of the cost of production, so that the calculation of the cost of production carried out by SMS is only an estimate. The application of recording, the application of recording and compiling the report on the cost of production has not been carried out by SMS, namely for several reasons, including one, lack of knowledge of the owner about recording and compiling the report of the cost of production. Most of company or most of SMS, they don't know about the method. They don't know about the calculating of cost of production. And two, the owner admitted that he did not have time to record and prepare the report on the cost of production because the owner managed own company and do not have a workforce. And three, the owner admit that he does not consider it is important to record or prepare a report on the cost of production because the company finances are mixed with personal finances. And then according Sari and Sam, the 2016 research suggests that the result of the study stated that the calculation of the cost of production resulted in a significant difference that affected the determination of the selling price. For this reason, companies should separate production costs and non-production costs and optimize their production activities so that they can produce the right cost of production at low cost so that companies can obtain maximum profit. This is implied that the method is important to set a selling price. And then based on SAK, namely in Indonesia, SAKM, AMKM, and the unit called the UMKM. Paragraph 3.9, the minimum financial statement consists of A, statement of financial position at the end of the period, B, income statement during the period, C, notes to the final statement containing addition and detail or certain relevant items. Now, an entity shall present a minimum of 2 periods for each of the required financial statement and notes to the related financial statement. You can see the AMKM in internet. I want to show you about the SAK AMKM in Indonesia. Like this, you can see that the SAK AMKM. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Regulation.
Regulation. Okay. I need to sorry.
No problem.
Okay. And next. Okay. And next. You can see that the financial position statement, from the PT Enggan Mundur, not maju. This is asset, cash and equivalent cash. You can see that compare 2017, 2018, and then giro deposit. Yeah, you can see that about the statement of UMKM in Indonesia. Same with the more company and other company, not different almost. Okay. And then you can see that income statement compare in December 31st, 2017 and 2018 about the revenue and about the expenses and about the net income before tax and after tax is the same. Okay, and then in accordance with SLK MKM, the CALK notes to the financial statement of SMS must contain the following information. One, a statement that the financial statement have been prepared in accordance with SLK MKM. Overview of accounting policy, additional information and certain account details that describe important and material transactions that are useful for user to understand financial statement. Additional information from each account in the financial statement is cross-reference to CALK to make it easier and clear for user to understand SMA financial statement. Is that you can see that the CALK in Indonesia, namely CALK, and then we start from different from full costing and variable costing. Variable cost, you know that the cost that when associated with volume per unit will always remain even though the production volume varies, but in total the amount will change according to proportion of changes in activity. You is familiar about the variable cost and fixed cost. Fixed costs are costs that do not change in total even though the amount of production changes. I mean that the fixed cost is changed about the per unit and variable cost is changed about the variable per unit. Full and variable costing method. Full costing and variable costing method are method of determining the cost of production. Full costing is namely to absorption, and then conventional costing is the same. It's three name. Variable costing is the same with the direct costing. And one, full costing. Full costing is a method of determining the cost of production that takes into account all elements of production cost into the cost of the production cost, consisting of raw material cost, direct labor cost, and factory overhead cost, both variable and fixed. So full costing is include all elements, fixed and variable. This is the calculate about the cost of production. This is raw material, direct labor, factory overhead, fixed factory overhead, variable factory overhead. This is include the fixed and variable in the cost of production. This is the name of full costing method. And then, sorry, sir.
No problem.
Okay, by using the full costing method, then one, factory overhead cost, both variable and fixed, charge to production on the basis of predetermined rate. I mean that the full costing method to factory overhead is used by the predetermined rate. And two, the difference in factory overhead will arise if the factory overhead charge is different from the factory overhead that actually occurs. And three, if all products processed in that period have not been sold, the imposition of more or less factory overhead cost is used to reduce or increase the cost of goods sold in stock, both products in process and finished products. And then overhead in the factory overhead, we know that about the over applied and under applied. Over applied is of course, yeah, if the amount of factory overhead charge is greater than factory overhead actually incurred. Yeah, so BOP is greater than BOP actually. The BOP charge is, I mean that BOP estimated charge is that the estimated and actually is actually incurred. And under applied factory overhead, of course, if the amount of factory overhead charge is less than the actually factory overhead, is refers to. And then the variable costing is a method of determining the cost of production that only takes into account variable production cost, also known as direct costing. Variable costing and direct costing is the same method, just the different name, but the same calculating. You can see that of a calculation of cost of goods sold, raw material cost, and at direct labor cost at variable factory overhead cost is the full costing method. And the name is cost of goods sold. And then by using the variable costing method, fixed factory overhead costs are treated as period costs, so that fixed factory overhead costs are charged as costs in the period in which they are incurred. So I mean that the variable costing to fix, especially factory overhead, is enter the period statements period, like operating costs. Operating costs, expenses in the income statement, to fixed overheads, enter to net income, enter to laporan laba rugi, income statement. Okay, and then the difference between full cost and variable cost, basically the difference between and two methods lies in the treatment time to or fixed overhead cost. Nah, this is the lies in fixed overhead cost. Fixed overhead cost enter to period cost. And variable costing assume that fixed overhead costs are charged in the period in which they are incurred. However, absorption costing is the name is like full costing, the same name or the same method. Fixed overhead costs must be charged and deducted from revenue for each unit sold. And then we can see the calculating different from full costing and variable costing. You can see that rise in fixed factory overhead. It's factory overhead, not in the cost of production with variable costing method. This is rise in fixed overhead, fixed factory overhead. And then you can see that example from full costing and variable costing calculation. This is bahan baku, raw material, direct labor, factory overhead, variable, factory overhead fixed. This is in the variable costing, not included fixed factory overhead. Okay. And then okay, this is the example from income statement and with full costing and variable costing method. Okay, this is the problem. This is the income statement In income statement from variable costing method, there is the contribution margin and net income. Is lies in contribution margin and net income. And then the cost of production with variable costing method. This is the calculation about the cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. This beginning inventory, cost of production, raw material, direct labor, the factory overhead variable, cost of barang tersedia untuk dijual, cost of variable available for sale, and then cost of goods sold. This is the calculation about the variable costing method to calculate the cost of goods sold.
Okay.
And then 10 minutes more, sir, or finish?
5 minutes more.
5 minutes more. Okay, you can see that the income statement like this. Yeah, income statement for full costing method is like income statement in accounting, cost accounting. Yeah. Okay, kemudian and next, this is cost of goods sold. Beginning inventory, cost of production, available for sale, cost of goods sold, it's a period cost, administration expense, selling expense. This is a variable costing. Okay, and then thank you. This is my presentation. Thank you. That's all, sir.
It's good. Very good presentation, Ibu Nelly, as the consultant of small medium enterprise financial report with the topic variable costing method in SME. Ini Ibu Nelly consultant dari. The first question, Prof. Fadli, I am very interesting. Look, your presentation regard mega trend, especially climate change. Please, you explain how climate change will be more impact to us to the future, especially consumer behaviors too. Itu dia tanya satu. Kemudian yang kedua, regard smart financial literacy, right now many use not well and wisdom about financial arrangement to long term. How the best way to successful good life after 40 or 50 years old by good financial condition. Dia tanyalah supaya macam orang putih kan. Jadi kalau dah tua nanti senang-senang aja lah pergi-pergi kat mana satu. Okey, Ibu Nelly, ini pertanyaan untuk Ibu dari Lestari. Very good presentation about variable cost of SME. Growth of SMA in Indonesia right now very interesting while they use digital technology, but many micro business
Berhenti, Bro.
Ya, ya Bu. Pertanyaan untuk Ibu Nelly, boleh dengar? Kalau Bu Nelly ada boleh dengar suara saya? Mana satu Ibu Nelly-nya suaranya tak dengar? Bu Nelly, internetnya okey tak? Apa dia pergi bilik air? Kang Indah, Ibu Nelly ada masalah kan dengan internetnya? Macam dia ada problem. Okay, no problem, Prof. You are to answer first around 5 to 7 minutes.
Right. Thank you very much, Pak Zara. Pak Reza, I think a very good question in terms of climate change. So I
Uh-huh.
think this also among SDG where we focus in terms of what we call it net zero goals. Or as I mentioned earlier, by 2050, for example, in Malaysia, we hope that we are free from carbon. So basically, what does it mean? So when we talk about net zero goals, meaning that refers to the target of reducing, mengurangkan, especially in terms of the greenhouse gas emission, pengeluaran gas-gas tadi tu, because it causes in terms of global warming to zero by balancing the amount of release into our atmosphere. So this is something that we really need to think in terms of the consumption, in terms of product, in terms of services that really focus on green. And then I think during our because last time people talk about like K economy. So but nowadays I think we have to move in terms of what we call it a blue economy. For example, in terms of green economy, this is something that really give impact when we as a consumer, we should play a vital role to make sure that our environment is safe. Number one. I can't remember the question number 2. Can you repeat, Pak Riza? What is the question number 2?
Dia kata regard smart financial literacy is very interesting. Right now, many youth not well and wisdom about financial arrangement to long term.
Alright. Okay. I think this is very good question. I'm not sure with Indonesia, but in Malaysia, so according to the Department of Insolvency, or we call it Jabatan Kebankrapan or Muflis, so we have a rising numbers of youth who has been declared bankruptcy, because in Malaysia, to declare bankruptcy, they may have like a default loan or payment for like RM 100,000. So, but we have rising numbers of belia, orang muda, or youngsters, or millionaire. This is something that really worried, especially among the government. So then what we should do now, so that's the most important thing, why we should teach, why we should equip, why we should introduce in terms of education at the very beginning. Okay. So as for Malaysia nowadays, we have like we have embedded in terms of financial literacy into other curriculum, especially at the like primary school, secondary school, even at my university, we also have like what we call it personal finance class or subject. This is in order to make sure that we give an awareness, especially to the youngsters. I think with the power of social media, government should use this social media to disseminate into knowledge, try to encourage youngsters to become prudent. So we need to do more outreach program, this kind of program to educate. We cannot give up. I think this is something that we really need look into that. Even in Malaysia, because this is the most like what we call it the national agenda issue. The government itself, during the Prime Minister before that, Tun Mahathir, they have launched what we call it National Financial Literacy Strategy. This is like a 5 years project from 2019 until 2023. So this is in order to make sure that many Malaysians are more financially literate.
Okay, it's very good. If you want to good financial, well, you're as the grandmother, you must be to follow the short course in Mr. Fadli. Kita kena bagi tahu. Okey, Ibu Nelly, tadi Ibu ada masalah di internet. Ini saya ulang pertanyaannya. Jadi, yeah, this is a question for you from Lestari. Very good sharing about variable cost SMEs. Growth of SMEs in Indonesia right now very interesting while they use digital technology, but many micro business not available yet to access digital technology. What do you think for get solution for them? Itu dia tanyalah bagaimana yang mikronya ini. Okay, number 2, currently many fixed costs available to reduction, like rent of building, delivery team. We can use Gojek, Grab, and so on. But regard variable cost, look more trend, regard promotion cost, digital marketing, how we can to reduce of variable cost to get cheap price. Itu dia Bu. Bagaimana Ibu mau jawab 2 pertanyaan dalam 5-6 menit?
Okay, I think that to get more training for SMEs to use digital marketing. He or she must be to try to training to see a seminar, webinar, and get a course about the digital marketing. And we can see in internet. We can see internet too.
Someone the best course book. We will to invite especially Prof. Fadli because he have the good package of financial skill. To next time, Bu. Okay, Bu. The second question, Bu.
To reduce variable costing, I think that you can drop, you can erase, you can eliminate the not activity
not productive
kegiatan yang tidak
not productive
activity not use and not have value added. You can eliminate activity not have value added. You can see, you can analyze this. Minimize cost. You can drop the activity not have value added. That's all.
Thank you very much, Ibu. Before the closing remark, we will to look at the song by video with the Sundanese language because for Fadli will be to go to Bogor, therefore must be to know about Sundanese language. Kang Indah, what the song you will to share for the Prof. Fadli nak lihat macam mana Sundanese language nyanyikan lagu itu. Oh, ini dia satu. Ini Bandung punya nih. Bogor juga ada.
Apa nih? We song together, sir?
Boleh. Kalau Ibu tahu lagunya, mangga. Okay, right now, Kang Indah. Silakan.
First and foremost, thank you very much, Pak Reza. Alhamdulillah, I think this is really a great opportunity, especially for us to learn something from like academic scholars. Inshallah, hopefully we can have more this kind of activities by inviting more like academic, maybe from practitioners, industries to join our intellectual discourse. Inshallah. Terima kasih banyak Pak Reza dan juga kawan-kawan, Ibu Nelly. Selamat berjaya, insyaAllah. Panjang umur rezeki. Saya akan datang kembali bertemu Pak Reza di sana lah, insyaAllah.
Iya, kita akan jumpa Bu Nelly juga. Sekaligus kita pergi makan sate matahari tadi.
InsyaAllah.
And then don't forget for your bagi opportunity to another lecturer in ekologi fakulti for the ramai yang boleh.
InsyaAllah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ibu Nelly, boleh Bu kata penutup closing remark dalam 2-3 menit sebelum kita berakhir.
Oke, untuk closing remark bahwa the variable costing method in SME has enormous benefits in its use for measuring profit is in a short time and special order and is less than the full costing method. And I mean that the variable costing method is useful for special order. That's all, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Kita sebentar ini akan leave karena kita sudah selesai. Tapi ada tapinya. kalau Prof Fadli atau yang lain nak dengar bagaimana lagu Sunda kalau dia nak undur diri itu mau minta izin nak pulang awal macam mana dia kata. Boleh kita dengar satu lagi sebelum boleh leave selepas ini karena ini relax dia di petang hari. Kang Indah, macam mana kalau orang nak balik pulang